Hey guys, thanks for being patient with us as we tried to work out some technical glitches here. I think if I did everything right, we should be back up now on both the website and Facebook. I have no idea, John, what gremlins we had in our machines that were keeping us from broadcasting on Facebook Live, but something was in the way. So bear with us. I'm noticing that my show notes are not on the table, so we're going to be
we're going
to wing it to a certain degree. Reagan, if you're watching, you're missed, girl. But here we are. We're glad that you tuned in to On the Journey with Sean and John. And we're going to talk tonight about Abraham a little bit later in the show. And we're just glad that you guys are here to be with us. We intended to do sort of a virtual handshake and welcome a few of you as we got on.
I see Deb and Jonathan and Jeannie's on.
Great, Deb, Jonathan, and Jeannie. I know that Charles is over watching on the website. Thanks to him and Olaine for tuning in there. I saw something from Robbie and Bobby, so I think that they're probably trying to get on if they're not already on. And want to encourage you guys as you sign on to let us know through the comment section and through the like buttons and stuff like that you're watching. Use that comment bar to talk with one another and to share with each other just some encouragement back and forth. Remember, that's the foyer of the church building. Always, every time we gather together under this virtual roof, remember, we need a foyer. We need a place to visit, a place to shake hands and tell everyone hello and we love them. And that's what the comment section is about. Then you've also, on Facebook and on the website, you've got the little heart icons and the like buttons and the stuff like that. Remember, that's the amen button, or that's the preach on, brother, or the I agree button. So use those buttons to let us know that you agree, or to share your thoughts and your feelings as we meet together. And things are just not working the way they're supposed to be working. There's supposed to be something up on the screen. Oh, it was there.
It was.
I got confused. So want to bring your attention to this banner that's here right below me. It says text in office 242-222-333. Let me explain that. Here a little bit later in the show, we're going to have a poll that we want to ask you folks to participate with us in, to share your responses. It's totally anonymous. This is just sort of a reach out and get a general feel of how you guys might be feeling about a couple of things. And in order to take that poll, you need to first join the poll group. I want to encourage you to do this because this is a tool that I envision being able to use even long after we've come back together under the real roof here at the auditorium. It's a great tool I've used before in lessons and sermons and Bible classes, and it's just a fun, interactive way to engage the audience, and we'll do it again. So the first thing you need to do, and you should do it here at the beginning of the show, we'll remind you again a little bit later, but the first thing you want to do is get your cell phone out, open a new text message, and the phone number that you're going to send it to is that 22333 number. So in the spot for who you're going to text, put 22333. And then the text message needs to read in office 242. And then hit send. And you'll get a message back that says you've joined the group of In Office 242, and you'll be set, ready to go. And then here in a little bit, when we enter into the poll, you'll be able to answer with just a simple letter. You'll be able to respond to the poll. So do that while we're kind of introducing the show, setting the stage, killing a little bit of time, trying to have a little bit of fun together as we enjoy this time together.
Quick announcement note. Edith just said that she and Paul are up and listening, but said Paul hadn't been feeling too good, so
all right.
Need to keep him in our prayers.
Yeah, glad to hear. They were watching also on Sunday. Glad they joined us on Sunday. But keep Paul in your prayers. He's having a little bit of some difficulties. So I think we're going to end up bouncing all the way around, partly because I don't have everything set up the way I'd like it to be set up on the screen for us to be able to do things the way I want to. And so we're going to kind of rearrange some things on the show.
On the fly.
On the fly. So let's start with the COVID updates.
Okay.
Can we do that?
Yeah.
Remember, get set up. Text in office 242-222-333. And
you'll absolutely want to be able to communicate that. There's going to be some important questions that you'll want to give some feedback to. And this is the way we're going to ask it. And you'll be able to share with us and be able to see what everybody's thoughts are once we're done with that. COVID is COVID. We're continuing on. Texas numbers are continuing to go up a little bit. I don't think that's anything that we didn't expect, and I think looking at nearly 35,000 in the state of Texas that have been diagnosed. The interesting number is right now there's about 15,000 who are active, and there's 17,000 who have been healed. They've come through this thing. So, we do have the deaths almost, we're pushing on 1,000 deaths from COVID in Texas. So all in all, Texas is doing pretty good. Although we just did reopen gradually, I think you'll see those numbers continue to go up. And as far as our county, we're still, Nueces was 114 confirmed cases, and we're still sitting at 12 in San Pat County. Although if you look at the news and you look at the beaches and the lack of social distancing, we may see some more of that coming as we go along. So. Yeah,
so quick reminder, quick plug, if you're just signing on, text in office 242 to the number 22333. That way you'll be ready to participate in the polls that are going to happen here in just a few minutes. But until that time, you're talking about the social distancing and the COVID and sort of the improvement we're seeing, but yet also expecting some hit in the number here as things open up a little bit more. Some really good news that helps us segue maybe back into our social satire is that the barbershops and the salons and the beauty shops are they open yet, or are they open tomorrow?
I think tomorrow.
Or Friday.
Friday, I think.
Friday. So they're all coming on Friday, which is a really good thing because this is, well, obviously not me. I can't go the right way. Not me. But this is many of us waiting on those barbershops to open up, right?
That's for sure. In this picture, they could have gone several different ways. That's the typical president haircut at this point. But I like that they took it the way they did. That's pretty good.
Yeah. So that's pretty good. Gonna have to bear with us because some of these I'm trying to remember my shorthand notes here on what's what. But I like this one. Oh yeah, the coronavirus is smart. I mean, it knows the difference between the grocery store and the hair salons, right?
Yeah, and there's. How does it do that? I don't know. I mean, one is allowable, one is not. I mean, it's really interesting how that has developed so quickly.
Right. You only get it, obviously, if you go to the hair salons because they're closed, but we can go to the grocery store all we want. Yeah, This one was really one of my favorites. It's a good throwback for many of us, right? Back to the Future and the movie about traveling in the time machine. And rule number one, it's a new rule, right?
Never set it to 2020.
Never set it to 2020. It's kind of like, reminds me of last week's I want a refund on 2020, right? Mm-hmm. For all you guys out there, this is a great one.
I don't know if you can read that, but it says, "Help, I am trapped here with my wife and the Hallmark Channel." It may not be the Hallmark Channel, but I guarantee you there might be one channel out there that men are going, I wish they didn't have this channel out there. But
yeah.
It's a good time for couples to share different ideas.
Yeah, I guess. Maybe we can work out an agreement in the home where half the time we watch Hallmark and the other time we watch action movies.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or, YouTube channel, How to Fix This, or, of course,
Home Improvement. Yeah.
She might like that.
And I think this is the last one we have to share with you this evening, but this too shall pass.
That's very scriptural.
Yes, it is. It may pass like a kidney stone, but it will pass. I've never had the misfortune of having kidney stones. I'm sure my day will come, but I hear they're quite painful.
Yeah, it's definitely something that most guys say you don't want to go through it.
Yeah. Well, so there's probably some other fun things that we could share with you this evening, but again, lost my show notes. We're going to try to cover all the important things and get to some time together as a family. So we've talked about COVID updates a little bit, moved on to some humor, some encouragement. Let's talk about the results of COVID as it affects us as a family,
Sure.
right?
That poll that we took, we got a lot of good information back from that. And I think with that, we've been able to, as a leadership, kind of establish a tentative plan of where we should go, what we should do. Of course, what happens now that we're opened up may kind of change that a little bit. But
Right.
we have a tentative date out there.
Okay, so before we share that tentative comeback date, as we might call it, let me reiterate something he said. We sent out last week, we sent out a survey to everybody, resent it, reminded everyone on Sunday about that survey. We've seen some good results. We would still love for you to take that survey if you haven't already. We will definitely continue to monitor the information that's coming in from that. I'm going to deliver one. Alta has asked for one, and hard copy, and I'm going to deliver one to her tomorrow so she can complete that. If there's others that that need a hard copy, we can get one to them. Or maybe better yet, if they don't do it digitally, if you can call them and click their answers for them. You can give the survey to them out loud and input their information in for us, and that will save the step of having to re-enter it once it comes in. But whatever the case, we encourage folks to still continue to complete that survey. We appreciate all of those that did. Some interesting things I kind of want to point out about the survey. Right now, 2/3 of the respondents are women. Men, only 1/3 of us have responded to the survey. So would love to hear from...
I don't think that's equal to our numbers.
No, I don't think that's totally accurate.
Does that mean she's answering for us?
Maybe.
I don't know. But
Maybe.
Men, speak out if you don't agree.
Yeah, men, we would love to hear from you as well. It is okay for a husband to take it and a wife to take it. It's not one survey for the family. Teenagers, there's only about 3 or 4 respondents that were 19 and under. Teenagers and children, we want to hear from you. We want to hear what you're thinking and what your thoughts are about the church family and about being able to come back together. One household, my household, should complete it 5 times. There should be 5 different people that complete that survey. We want to encourage everybody to give their input because everybody matters. So feel free to complete that survey a little bit more. Point out some other things, John, that you remember through some of the surveys that you found interesting or that others might like to hear that are results.
Yeah, the overall synopsis that I get from it is that overwhelmingly we are anxious to get back together. But there is a huge amount of maybe fear or caution that people want to take as we do that. The several questions, small groups, large groups, and there was kind of a split in there of, hey, I'm ready right now, or I'm ready to wait until it's safe between those two. But there was definitely some caution that was expressed in those moments.
Yeah. So definitely saw that everybody is very much anxious. Tech, it's just killing me today. Everybody is definitely very much anxious to be together. We want to. That's probably the wrong word, because we need to use that word to describe. So everybody's eager. Everybody's eager to be together. Like, we want to be together, but there are a number of us, I would say the majority of us, that are expressing some concern or some anxiety or anxiousness about coming together too quickly. And so as a whole, and as the leadership looks at the results, that's by and large the overwhelming response, anywhere from waiting 2 to 3 more weeks to several that felt an even longer period of time. So I think we'll see some of us have that sense that says, I'm sure the church will get back together under one roof soon, but I may not be comfortable coming for an even longer period of time. But so overall, as a leadership, we were considering in that statistic, if you will, or that overall feeling of our congregation as we began to formulate what I'm beginning to affectionately call our comeback plan, right, or our comeback journey to the building. And so we did set a tentative date, given that all things continue to progress in the positive, if you might say, in regard to the government and the protocol and the recommendations from CDC and all that kind of stuff. And that date is?
It'll be the first Sunday in June. So that's the 7th. Is that right?
Correct. June 7th.
June 7th. So, and did you want to share the theme of that day yet?
Yeah, so tentatively we're set to come back together for the first time back at the building as a family on June 7th. So it only makes sense to me that if the family is getting back together, or if the family is reuniting, that we set a theme for the day. And so June 7th, save the date, June 7th will be the North Bay Family Reunion for 2020. So save that date. And we're gonna try to make that day special as we reunite together, as we come back together under one roof, as we have a family reunion that morning, Sunday, June 7th.
Yep.
So be listening and watching and hearing as we talk some more about what that day looks like for us. And as we continue, remember, it's tentative because it's all pending more feedback from the congregation, more input from the CDC and the Texas government, and what happens as we move forward with opening the state and the impacts that has. So keep in mind, tentative, very hopeful for that day, but we want to plan to make it something special for us as we get to be together again. So the family reunion, the North Bay Family Reunion, June 7th, save the date.
And I think as leadership we're eager for that day, but we're not just going to do status quo until we get to that date. I think, and that's part of the questions that are coming out today. The reason you should be setting up your text.
Right. I wanted to segue into that. So tell them.
There you go.
Yeah, tell them.
Well, you want
Yeah,
that?
tell them that.
Text in office 242 to 2233. And
Three.
that'll, yes, 3 threes, 2 twos and 3 threes. So that's 22333. And that'll give you the opportunity to share some input with us as we have some questions that we're going to kind of live poll tonight. But that, because of the little bit of delay, we want to try to encourage everybody to just continue to start gathering back together smaller groups. And, we kind of have some ideas behind that. So I'll let Sean continue to share with that.
Okay, so let's. I'm gonna take that screen off because now we're gonna move forward to the poll in just 1 second. We're gonna do 2 questions in our poll in just a minute, and on the screen I'm gonna change this screen behind me, and as you answer, you'll see the results coming in to the poll here based on what you text here. So the first thing you need to do right now, I've already taken it off the screen, but using the number 22333, that's the phone number. I know it's only 5 digits, but that's what you put in for the phone number, and then in the text message you do in office 242, hit send, and then in just a moment you'll be ready to text in the answers to our polling questions. So first question of the poll. Let me change my screen here. The first question, was that yours from earlier?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to clear this screen. We're going to go full screen here. All right, so the first question to the poll is this. I would be interested in hosting a worship watch party in my home during the month of May. I realize that our camera just went dark. That's because on the screen behind me, you're not going to see it now.
Wow.
So my live results. Oh, hey, maybe that'll work. Okay, so during May, hey.
Whoa.
All right. See, we're seeing some people respond. Thank you so much. You're always hoping this will work. So what we mean by that, in case you need some help or some clarification, for the month of May, since we're planning our comeback on June 7th, we've got 4 Sundays between now and then. We're looking to see the family make some steps towards getting together on these remaining 4 Sundays in some smaller group ways. We kind of felt like maybe the best way to go about doing that was by asking who might be interested in opening up their home and inviting some people in. In just a minute, we're going to follow up with kind of the reverse question of who wants to go to a place. But we want to see, is there desire among you to have some people join you in your home? We're not talking about large numbers, right? We're talking about what your home can manage and what you might be comfortable with having in your home. But are there people that are willing to open up their home and invite some people in to watch, to join them in the Sunday morning worship hour and communion time at 10 a.m.?
And I think it's important that we share the expectation. We're not expecting you to lay out your best silver, to have your house pristine. This is just family getting together to share some time together, to have this watch party.
Absolutely.
If you want to serve refreshments and you have chips and dips, man, don't do it.
Make sure I'm invited.
That's right, and don't do it during the communion. That's sacred and holy. Don't do that in that. But no, do this as you make this the best you can, but don't feel like you have to put out the best you have.
Right.
We all live in our homes, and it is what it is.
Homes are meant to be lived in and not to judge me by. So if you won't judge me by the cleanliness of my home, I won't judge you by the cleanliness of yours, right? We're families. We live in our homes. That's what happens in them. And so we're not asking anybody to put stress on themselves or anxiety on themselves, but we're just kind of taking a feel for who might be interested in having kind of a smaller group of people gathered in their home over the next couple of weeks, and if that's even a desire of some of our people. So this question that's on the screen right now, I would be interested in hosting a worship watch party in my home during the month of May. If you want to say yes, you would text A to the number 22333. If you want to say no, perfectly fine. You would text the letter B to the number 223333. And if you're undecided about that, you think maybe so, maybe no, I don't know, you would text C to the number 22333. Now, what I need to remind you or make sure you understand is 56% of our respondents just said yes, they're willing to do that. I have no idea who you are. We don't have any way to know in here who you are and who's interested in being a host to a watch party. So we're going to ask you to do an extra thing. If you said yes, that you would be interested, that I'm going to ask you to email or text Sean or John or the office or Melissa that says, hey, we would host a watch party if people were interested in coming to our house. You also don't necessarily have to tell us that if you just do it. You just invite some people over. The only reason I think I'd kind of like for us to have an idea of a few places is because of what the next question is going to be asking. So I think this has been up long enough for you to respond to that. So we're going to move on to the next question. Again, it's going to be the same response, but this question is, I would be interested in attending a worship watch party in someone else's home. I didn't complete the verbiage of that sentence correctly, but you get the idea. I can't host, but I would be interested in going to somebody's home. If you would answer yes to that question, then send A to the number 22333. If it would be no, I'm still not comfortable getting out, I want to stay home and stay isolated for a bit longer, then you would send B to 223333. And then if you're undecided about that, you would enjoy having the option, but you're just not sure yet, you would do C to 22333.
And if you said yes to a host, still answer this if you were willing to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't say I want to be a host and I'm not going to go to somebody else's house. Are you willing is the only question we're asking.
Yeah, and the goal of this, like we said, this isn't telling us, we're not associating names with any of this information. We're just trying to get a good feel for what's the need, right?
Sure.
Is there a need for us to work at trying to find, match some people up with some homes and some places that are willing to host? Or is everybody happy doing what they're doing as a family on their own and just continuing with the status quo, you might say, for the next couple of weeks? Knowing that we have a plan for a start back is great, but our desire isn't to just wait for that day to arrive, right? We want to be working together to continue to build unity, love, and so on and so forth here, encouragement in the family leading up to that day. We don't want to just be sitting on our hands waiting for other things to happen. So if you're interested in attending a worship watch party with someone in somebody else's home, then you're answering A for yes, B for no, or C for maybe, and that is all being sent to the number 22333.
Now, I'm assuming that the maybes that we're getting on this might be dependent on the accessory venue that's going on around this watch party. How big is the TV?
Yeah.
Is there surround sound? What is the seating like?
Is there a recliner that I can sleep in during the service, during Sean's message? I have been told that my voice can be soothing.
I haven't fell asleep yet, but
yet,
no.
Yeah, well. That's a good thing, I suppose.
Yeah.
Well, so that's probably all the fun we're going to try to have with that little survey there. I was looking for the remote to maybe get the brighter camera view up for us here. Some other things that didn't turn it off, did it? Some other things we were discussing, we wanted to mention to you. You know, last week we mentioned that we were looking into replacing the pews with chairs, and so let's give everybody a quick update on where we stand with that, and then based on time, we probably need to move on into the discussion on Abraham. But quick update on that: we pseudo-placed the order today. It will be officially placed tomorrow for chairs that will be here. It is going to take about 8 weeks for those chairs to get here, so we're going to have some time between coming back. The hope was that we would come back to chairs. And so we're looking at what that means in that regard. The pews may be here on the 7th. the pews may not be here on the 7th. We're not sure yet exactly what.
Chairs. Oh, you mean pews.
No, I mean,
Oh, the
when we
pews,
come
yeah.
back on the 7th, you may be coming back and sitting in pews, but you may not if we can find a solution that might work. We might have an interim time where the pews are gone and we're kind of making do with what we have until we get those new chairs in. It all just sort of depends on where we hear what the final delivery date is. But I don't know about how everybody feels one way or the other about that, but I can tell you that I'm excited, and I don't even sit in those things that much. But I'm excited about a lot of the flexibility and just a lot of the good that it's going to bring to us to make this change, and excited about those things. And I've talked to a number of people that I think feel like it's a positive thing, and so I think it's something that we can be excited about and look forward to. We're not going to go into it now, but I will mention to you that we will be inviting everyone to participate with us in the funding of those chairs. We're going to buy them in a lot of ways. I call it like this: we're going to buy it on faith, and then we're going to invite everybody to participate with us in making a donation of whatever form or fashion that you could to help offset the cost of those things, so that we can look forward to some other updates that we might like to do around the physical facility.
I know we need to get on to Abraham, but I think we need to mention that our cry room / nursery
Yes?
is going to need to be prepared before we come back. If you guys have any interest in helping in whatever way, we'll be glad to take your help with that. So reach out probably to Melissa. That'll be probably the right person to talk to on that deal. So
Yeah, absolutely. The cry room, as well as a few other things that are we'd like to see done over the next couple of weeks before we come back on the 7th. We'll be reaching out and extending opportunity for anybody that's able
I'm going to step off camera in just a second.
to join us in the work and service that might need to be done around here. So look for that call to come out. If you know right now, hey, I'm willing to do some volunteer work and some help around there, yeah, you can send an email to the office saying, hey, let me know when something needs to be done, and I'll be there, and that would be great.
Yep.
So tonight, the last little bit that we're together here, we want to take a look at Abraham. And John's going to remind us of Abraham and his story before we dig in and find some points of encouragement from his life.
Yeah, I think to put in perspective, I think the focus from tonight is how he deals with his life and the things that are given, promised, and how he went through his life going for that, dealing with that. But our story starts in Genesis 12:1. It actually starts in somewhere around 11:31, when they're introduced, when Terah, I think is how you pronounce his father's name, when they talked about that they settled in Ur. And then that's from there, you don't see much of him until, as we go through, it talks about him, but it talks about him a little bit later in his years. But we're talking about a rancher. Was his lifestyle. They had goats, and so they spent life like that. Abram, as he's called in the early part, is in the direct lineage of Shem, which is Noah's son. And in this, I guess he's a Shemite up until this time. But if you look back and think about it, Abram, when he becomes Abraham and takes the call from God, becomes the first Hebrew. And I think it's interesting that if you look at the language, the word Hebrew actually has a meaning besides God's people. we always associate it with the Israelites being Hebrew, but Hebrew in its original means to cross over or to pass through. And I think that's another point to his story tonight is there was a lot of passing through. He really never did really settle on some of this stuff. So anyway, we see him, God tells him to basically drop what his life is, to leave his family, to basically go where I tell you to go. Go to a place I'm going to show you. So the only thing we see in his response is he does it. He grabs his wife, his nephew, his stuff, and he leaves. So with that, you see that response. He takes off, and then he goes forward as he's doing this, and then most scholars say that he's probably 75 years of age when this call comes to him. So it's not like he's a teenager leaving the house because I'm ready to get out on my own. He'd been out on his own for a while in this situation. So he moves, and here he goes out on his own. During this time, God keeps telling him these promises that he's coming up, that he's going to give him the land of the Canaanites to his offspring. This is a man who has no child. So he's probably trying to figure out, one, I'm 75, pushing 80, wherever this takes place that he's being told this. He's got to be questioning some of this. What offspring? Who is he talking about? Maybe he's talking about somebody, a cousin, or, offspring. But it's got to be something he had to question as well. During his life, we see that he's not a perfect man. He's got some oopses in there. He has a great fear of authority, evidently, because when it comes to approaching kings, he was afraid that his wife, who evidently was a looker, was going to get him into some trouble. So this is my sister, not my wife. And, of course, that turns into some problems. And there's two recordings of that, so he at least does that a couple of times. So he not only does it once, but he doesn't learn from it, he does it again. We see that that Lot and Abram have to divide up and leave. So basically that tells me that they were doing very well. They were multiplying, their herds were getting large, they couldn't support, so they had to separate. So they wasn't that they were struggling in this time, they were doing quite well. And of course, some of the things that God tells them during this time is your children are going to be dirt. That may not be the right connotation, but it says that they will be as the dust of the earth. They're going to be uncountable, I believe is what you would do that. And he's promised the son. Of course, that he's probably in his 80s the first time that is kind of figured out. He's shown his family's future. Talks about he dreams of what their future is going to be, even that they're going to be journeying, be in captivity. All this is kind of shown to him. Of course, then you have that big story of the covenant and dividing it up, walking between it, all that kind of stuff. That's a whole nother story in itself. Then they take things into their own hands. We're supposed to have a son, and the wife says, I got this figured out. So they have a son via a servant, and of course his name is Ishmael. And so, as things happen, when we take things in our own hands, they don't turn out exactly the way they're meant. So we see some of that going on. This is the first time that I ever understand that circumcision has been introduced. So this is the first time in that covenant that this takes place. So the complete change in the way life is. There's name changes. Abram is Abraham, and Sarai becomes Sarah. Those have some meanings that probably don't have time to get too deep into tonight. They both felt it humorous when God told them at their ripe old age of 90 that they were going to have a child. They both felt like that was maybe something impossible there. You have the Sodom and Gomorrah story in this situation. Have a salty wife in that situation. You have then you have the actual birth of Isaac, the son that we know that all this sand and stuff comes from, and of course we know that feud of those two brothers still that wave and that ripple still they're still fighting in those lands today. Mm-hmm. Then we see that Isaac gets to witness the dedication that Abraham has to God, all the way to the point of taking his own son's life, which is his promised child. And I think there's more to his story, and people may pick another stone out of there, but that's kind of those high points that I see in his story.
Yeah, so we take a look at that. We take a look and we remember the story, or we remember what we know about his life, and what are some things, some places. We've been trying to pick characters. That's probably not the best word
Character
to use, because they're real. You
Historical
know,
figures,
it's not fictional. We're trying to pick heroes of faith here in Scripture that we know, that we also see lived in a period of time or in a season of isolation or separation. And Abraham definitely fits that bill. You know, as we look at Daniel, he spent a season, a time of maybe a number of years, but not a lifetime in isolation. We look at Jonah. I don't think we've looked at Jonah yet, but he's probably coming. We look at Noah. Do we talk about Noah? Yeah, I think the first week. And so definitely Noah spent a extended season. But when you look at the life of Abraham, from the moment that God comes and calls him from Ur and invites him into the journey, he spends the rest of his life a wanderer, and alone. I mean, he certainly has Sarah with him, and then he has Isaac, and he's got his servants, and so on and so forth. But when you look at it in light of the promise, what was the promise that God gives to Abraham?
One is that his lineage is going to be forever, that it'll be like the sand.
Right. So he says a land.
Mm-hmm.
I promise you a land of your own. Yep. I promise you to make you into a great nation. Numerous descendants, and that all the world would be blessed through you. And so you look at that and you go, wow, what a promise. But don't you think that Abraham, as you read that whole story, that whole account, don't you see, or don't you think that it was difficult for him? Because here you have this promise way back here in what we call Genesis chapter 12, and you're through a lifetime of Abraham before you get to fulfillment of those promises.
Four chapters at least.
And one of the promises was a land of your own, but Abraham himself never had a home.
No.
His tent was always moving, you know, and so he definitely spent nearly a lifetime, it seems like, in isolation. So what are some points of encouragement maybe that you find in his story?
Well, I don't know if it's encouragement, but I find it maybe a challenge that with Abraham, he was given a promise. You know, we're given promises. He was told by God, here's what to expect. He took it on faith. He said, okay, I'm good. Let's do this. Mm-hmm. Nowhere in here do we see that he wavered and said, well, maybe not. I'm going to go over here for a while. Or, you know, he marched on, even having children, okay, there's a fulfillment of a promise there. And not ever seeing a land, he had to become discouraged, but he just kept going.
Yeah.
You know, at one foot in front of the other type deal. But he accepted that promise as concrete faith, and he marched forward with that as he went along.
Yeah, I look at Abraham's story, and I was telling John yesterday as we were talking a little bit about this that Abraham is my guy. He is the one that I just feel like the most often I relate to or connect with in a way, because of what happens there in Genesis 12 as God comes to him and says, "Hey, Abraham, it's me, God, go with me. Mm-hmm. Leave your family and leave your life and go with me to a place I will show you." And that's about all the detail he gets. And I love, when I talk to, when I would teach this with teenagers in particular, I would remind them that if I invited them to go with me on a youth trip, they didn't just go, mm-hmm. right? There was a great deal of detail that was required for them to make a decision. Am I going or am I not?
Right.
Where are we going?
What's going to be done?
What are we doing? Who else is going?
Mm-hmm.
What's in it for me?
How are we getting there? What are we eating?
How are we getting there? What are we eating? There's just this host of questions that would always come. And when you take that, for something as simple and silly as having, a fun youth experience maybe, and then you go over here and you look at Abraham's story and it says, God said, "Come on to a place I will show you," and that's all he got.
Yeah, nothing else.
And the response the promises are the calling is made, and then the very next verse in like 3 sentences, the response is made and not a word is spoken. Not 3 sentences, 3 words. And so he went.
Mm-hmm.
And so he went. He went. It doesn't record that he asked questions. Certainly he had them. It would be natural mm-hmm. that he would desire to know, where are we going? And I just love that, and I've always connected with that because certainly our calling into ministry, and each time we've even moved since then, I'm not going to lie, when we entered into this interview with you guys, our initial response was, we're not moving to Portland. We just need interview experience. We're not, because it is getting close to time, and we had to remind ourselves, God invites us on the journey, and we just go. And boy, were we wrong, because we entered into the journey, and not far in, we realized, oh, this might really be happening. And the only reason, I think I shared this with some, the only reason we were looking for a reason not to say yes. I mean, we were digging, and we couldn't come up with a reason not to say yes, because this was that Abraham moment. And I believe that it's not just those of us called into ministry, it's all of us as Christians that receive these opportunities of Abraham moments where God says, join me in faith, join me on the journey. And our response is just simply to be, okay, and we go. Not, well, maybe, but where are we going? Who's going to be there? Mm-hmm. What's in it for me? What are we eating? How are we going to eat while we're going? That's our nature. But we're called to be like Abraham, where we hear the promise of a God that says, trust me and I'll provide.
Yep.
And Abraham, like you said, he had the oops moments where he messed up, he didn't trust. But notice every time God always reminds him, hey, I'm faithful to my promises, I will provide for you. Yeah. And I just love the rich connection that I make personally with Abraham, and I think everybody can if they're looking.
Something that is encouraging to me, I think, is if you look at Abraham, he's a rancher. He's not somebody of royal descent. He's not somebody who's spectacular in any special thing, but he's chosen because of pretty much of his faith.
Yeah.
And he was chosen. He was given the go order. He traveled, and then he got his reward. And I think that's that call to faith, that call to action. I mean, we're doing it now. I mean, who would know that on Wednesday nights we're going to be sitting across the table talking to people on the internet discussing God's Word? That's not our normality.
Right.
I don't know that that's a call from God, but it's definitely different, and we're going to step out in faith and hope that God does what he can with it.
Yeah, I see another reminder here to me in Abraham is the power of promise.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And we've talked about that before pretty recently, I think on Sunday mornings, the power of promise. When we hear God's promises for us, and when we believe God's promises for us, that should be enough to carry us into the journey. And it was for Abraham. And there were moments, as we've noted, that maybe he kind of laughed at the promise, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to have a child. Yeah, right. Yeah. That he kind of laughed, but God gently brings him back into with that reminder. I want to share something that was pointed out to me that illustrates the power of promise in a more recent time. And I want to share this one because of some experiences I had. In 1942, General Douglas MacArthur was forced to flee the Philippines because of the advance of the Japanese army. Okay? Mm-hmm. So this World War II stuff. But World War II, World War I? World War II. World War II. So he's forced to leave the Philippines. But as he leaves, he declares, "I shall return." 2 years later, in 1944, MacArthur returned to the Philippines and took back the island. He kept his promise. I point that out to you because I've had the privilege 3 times, I believe, 3 or 4 times to go to the Philippines. And on my second or third time there, we took teenagers to the island of Naval, and the Philippine missionary that we were working with, his name is Richard Imperato, he was insistent that we go visit MacArthur's Landing. Because to the Philippine people, there is this statue of General MacArthur, and there is great praise, admiration, and respect because in 1942 he had to leave, but he made a promise, "I will be back." And he fulfilled that promise. And that has meant the world to them, and they live in the power of that promise. And because of that, the Philippine people, generally speaking, as a nation, have this great respect for American people that oftentimes we don't deserve. We're not deserving of. But we have it because of a man who made a promise and kept a promise. And look at the impact, and look at the power that that promise has. Well, if that promise from a man can bring that kind of power to the world, then what's the power of the promises of God? And I see in Abraham someone who knew and experienced that power. Sure, he had his moments where he doubted it or had trouble with it, but for the majority of his wandering life, he knew the power of God's promises, and he lived in that power.
Sure. Yeah, I think he had to write it on his mirror.
Yeah.
We if you want to remember something, write it on your mirror.
Yeah.
There's "I love you" on our mirror right now. That's how we do it. But I'm sure that in his time, he spent a lot of time thinking, focusing on those promises and going, "I will succeed, I will move forward." We're given immortality. God says we will conquer death. That should be something on our mirror.
Yeah.
I am immortal. That if we want to succeed and keep moving forward, then we need to remind ourselves every day what that promise is.
Yeah. Again, as I told you, Abraham is my guy. I mean, this is my go-to place. This is what I modeled or attempted to instill principles and things from the life of Abraham into my own faith. And so I could sit and talk about what I love about him and about the encouragement I receive from all areas of his life, because we've really only hit on the surface. We've talked about the promise, right?
Yeah.
And we haven't really talked about, we've danced around some of the other little episodes in his life, but it's just so rich, full of encouragement. So I want to encourage you. We don't have enough time here. In a few minutes, we're going to lose feed over to the website, and we're probably losing your interest anyway. But I want to encourage you to spend some time in the life of Abraham over the next few days, maybe, and finding some encouragement for your walk, finding how he lived through the power of the promise, how you can live through the power of the promises, finding how he saw the provision of God in his life, and how you too can find that same and know that same provision that God offers. I thank you for joining us tonight. Appreciate you tuning in and being patient with us in the beginning. We had some technical difficulties. It's just the way it seems to be going for us these days. But hey, here we are. We're online. We finally got it up and going. Thank you for participating in the poll. That was a little bit of fun. Look forward to maybe incorporating that in a better way moving forward. We're going to throw another one. We don't have a question for you to respond to up there on the screen, but you can respond to me, or you can respond to John if you've got our phone numbers or emails, or you can send into the office. That's a way to connect with us. But so John and I are enjoying doing this Wednesday evening show, for the lack of a better term, for you guys, and I hope that it's been an encouragement to you and a good time for you. We look forward to continuing it even beyond the time that we're meeting together, maybe in a different time, different venue. So here's the deal. We need a name. We need a name. And so we're going to throw one out there that we're kind of liking. We'd love some feedback from you. You can put it in the comment bar. How about we do that? You can use the comment bar. We can see if we can light this thing up for a few seconds here. If you like it, yes. If you can post yes. If you don't like it, you can put no. And then, especially if you put no, but even if you put yes, we would entertain some suggestions. We're not promising to take them, but we will entertain some suggestions on what we should call this hour or this time as a show. But for now, you saw it on the Facebook post. We're thinking about On the Journey. On the Journey with Sean and John. Join us on the journey with Sean and John, but on the journey, because again, that shows my affection and connection with Abraham, because that's what his life was, and that's what we're doing too. Is we're journeying in faith, and that gives us some things, but we're throwing it out there on the journey. But we would love to entertain some of your thoughts on what we might call this hour together as a family, whether it stays on Wednesday evenings or moves to some other time at a later time. I don't know.
Absolutely.
All right. So, any other thoughts?
No, I think we're good. The
Sorry, Jonathan. That's great. Between the two plants, huh? All right.
No, I hope that what we're doing here is encouraging, and that it is something that we can come together and share each week. By all means, if there's content or structure or anything that you feel would help, share that with us. We'll be glad to talk about it and see if there's something that would be good for us. If it'll help you, most likely it'll help others.
Yeah. All right, so let's close out with a word of prayer, and then we'll let you guys go for the evening, as if we've had you captured audience anyway. Let's pray. Father, for the opportunity to gather together in this virtual world, we thank you. For the opportunity to dig into your word just a little bit and be reminded of a great hero of faith, Abraham. More than a hero, the father. The one who defined for us what faith was. That trusting in you, the God, the Creator, that's what faith is, and that's what we're called to. Father, for him we give you praise, and for record of his life, we give you praise. And I pray that as we look at his life, as we look at Daniel's and Noah's and other people throughout Scripture, and even people today, I pray that we may be encouraged by the faith that they exhibit. And Father, I also pray that the lives we live, that the faith we exhibit, will be an encouragement to others as well. May we be a people who live trusting in you to care for us, to provide for us, to lead us, and to guide us. I thank you for the family of faith here at North Bay. I thank you for the love that we share together, for your presence among us, and for your guiding us as we seek to love you, to serve people, and to be a blessing to the world around us. Father, thank you for loving us. Thank you for giving Jesus to die in our place so that we could be forgiven and be given the hope of eternal life. It's in his holy and precious name that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Grace and peace, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah. See you next week.